when you are completely finished, you have your rocks, you have your sedimentary layers, you are completely done with your canyon, you'll raise your hand, show Mrs. Boyd that you are actually ready to start painting. So we're going to create a sunrise or a sunset, but it covers the colors of the rainbow just in a slightly different order. You must watch this entire video first so you can know how to create it where it fades into one color and the next. So this one you can see has the stripes. It's much better if you don't have the stripes, which is important why you have to watch the video first. So when you are ready, you will have white paper, you will have your paint and water and brush. Remember, if your partner is painting, you share the cup of water and you share the paint, so the only thing you need is a paintbrush. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to create a wet on wet, which means we're going to use the wet watercolor paint on wet paper. So dip, 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 side, side, side. I'm going to start at the bottom of my paper, dip, 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 side, 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 and I'm going to get it very, very wet. Dip, 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 side, side, side. So as you can see, my paper is starting to change because it's getting wet. So I make sure, and I keep adding water. So I'm looking to make sure that my paper is super duper wet. Then I'm going to start with actually the yellow for the sun first. So round and around and around like a ballerina. And then I add the yellow. Since we are doing wet on wet, you need wet yellow. Dip, 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 side, side, side. So I'm going to get the bottom very yellow. And every time I get paint, I get more water. This is going to need to be very, very wet. After yellow, clean your paintbrush 3 times. Then I'm going to do orange. And my orange is going to touch the yellow, just like this. And I keep adding more orange, because the more paint you add, the more vivid the color is. So as you can see, my yellow and my orange, they're starting to mix together where they touch. Now I'm going to go and do the middle section of my paper. So I clean my paintbrush and I want it wet. So I'm going to add more water to the middle section. So I am going dip, dip, dip and a little bit side to side, but I definitely need a lot of water. I'm not going to touch the orange, but I'm going to get very close to the orange. And I'm only doing 1/3 of the paper at a time to make sure it does not have time to dry out. All right, so now I'm going to touch my orange a little bit just to make sure it has not dried any. Dip, 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 side, side, side. I'm going to add a little bit of more orange to it. Then I'm going to go into the red, round and around, and paint my red. Now I leave a little bit of space at first, round and around, until I get the red I like. Then I touch the orange. Dip, 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 side, side, side. Make sure it touches. So this example will actually be, and I'm going to keep, you know what, I think I'm going to do a curve a little bit. Now my red's going to be more of a pink, which is perfectly fine. Now I'm noticing my orange and my red kind of has a white space. So I'm going to go in and add just a little bit more orange to it. Just like that. And then a touch of red. Just to make sure that my red and my orange are mixing. Because I want the layers, but I also want them to kind of blend in together and kind of overlap each other. So then after red, we're actually going to switch to the end of the rainbow, which would be the purple or the, nope, excuse me. Yes, purple or the violet color. So then I'm going to add purple. Just like this. Now notice I'm on the end of my water stripe and the paint stops. I want the paint to continue to flow because water is a liquid and we are using watercolor paints, which means all of the paint is going to continue to move and flow until the water has evaporated. So just like this. So now I'm going to make sure the edge of my purple or violet is wet, because now I have that stripe and I can't do anything about it. So I wanted you to see what happens if you go all the way to the edge of the dry. So I'm going to add some more violet, make it nice and dark. And then I'm going to touch the red because I've got that white stripe again. Oops. Good thing about watercolors is you can always wash it away. Then I do have that white stripe, so I'm going to add a little bit more red in here and touch the violet. Then the next level will be blue. So if you look at the rainbow, red, orange, yellow, green, blue, violet, we've gone in a different order, but we're going to use all the colors except for green. We're not making a tornado sky, so we're not going to end up with a green. And then purple. Just like this. Then the very, very top, we're going to use black. So the very top, all the way, yes, you are going to get paint on the table. We will clean the table. And then I want to make sure it blends in with the blue. And I'm going to come down a little bit more into the blue. Make sure it's a black sky. Paint on top of the blue. Just like that. Now, I'm not sure if, yeah, you can see there are air bubbles in here, which is fine because it is completely stuck to the table because it is so wet. So we're just going to leave it for a second. Probably leave it for about 15 minutes. Let it dry a little bit. Do not try to pick it up because underneath the table is going to be dirty. If you try to rearrange it and move it, the colors are going to mix up too. I notice on my blue and purple, there's a very distinct line. So I think I'm going to try add more blue in here. Just like that. Now you will actually end up cutting on the edge of your mount, on the edge of your clips. When you cut your clips, you're going to start here. We're not going to cut individual ones. You're going to cut here, just like this, on the very, very edge. Just follow the line. Make sure we don't trim off anything we want to keep. So you're keeping the edge of your cliffs, and it looks like this. Then, same thing. I start in the middle one right here. I'm not going to start anywhere else. It's on the very, very edge right here. And then I stay on the line. And I cut all the way up. When I cut, be careful. You don't want to leave any of the manila edging. Cut on your exact brown line. Just like that. So, when you're finished, you actually have a canyon that looks very much like this. Now, I left white on the edges, which is exactly why I said don't, because when I move this, while it looks super impressive and amazing, you can see the white at the top and the white at the bottom. So I don't like that. But yours will be much better.